Hello and welcome to Tippcast here with myself, Shane Stapleton, as ever with Shane Brophy of the Nina Guardian in the middle, and Eoin Brislane joins us this week. How are you doing, man?
Good now.
Good.
I'll start off with yourself, Eoin. Tipperary obviously gave a great performance for long spells after a slow start against Waterford. Finished up 224 to 220 to the Deise. A few days have passed now. How do you reflect on the performance and the results and where it leaves Tipperary?
Yeah, performance, you'd be happy enough. Results, you'd be disappointed. I suppose, like everybody going down was probably saying that we could be in for a hiding here. But like I was even saying to Shane last week there that I felt that we'd a real chance, because I felt that Waterford were being set up for a fall. I thought they were being blown up, and I think that winning the league final and everything, we were coming in under the radar, and I felt that the word on the ground was that train was going well, and they were happy enough our teams were going to train, and I felt that this Tipp team, okay, we lost a number of players, but like we still put in the best performance against Limerick last year for 35 minutes, and I felt that it went down there. And as well, the other thing that I felt as well was that Walsh Park wasn't, of all pitches going, is a pitch that doesn't suit Waterford, right? I felt that we could really get in their faces and close down the spaces and really put them under pressure. We did. I suppose the disappointing thing for us is that when you are an underdog and you're going in, you have to take our chances. And like we had 3 wide starting off, then they tapped over there and 4-0 up, and then we had a couple of goal opportunities. Really, like Jason's opportunity was a really good opportunity. Noel's opportunity, okay, it was a half opportunity, and then Jake's coming from the side again. It was a good shot. It was a great save, right? I suppose Jason's one is the one that he should have put away. It was like when you're in that far one on one with a keeper, there's no excuses. He should have nailed that one, you know. But in saying, listen, I suppose I like you can come away saying, great performance and we're happy enough and this, that, and the other, but still, to me, it was 2 points that we could have got. We could have got, and I suppose the worry now is going into next week. Can we like, it's total role reversal now for next Sunday against Clare. That's the big worry for me now.
Yeah, Shane, I think your microphone might be rubbing off your zip there a small bit, so maybe just watch that. But a few days have now passed. How do you feel about it, Shane?
Yeah, I'm along the same lines as Eoin. Like if you said beforehand, good performance, take Waterford down to the wire, and momentum to take into the Clare game, you would have said great, but it just highlighted, I suppose, some of those deficiencies that are probably still there for me. Okay, you can say, look, we have a lot of new faces in there. We're trying to build a new team, and that's good. But like when the game was there to be won the last 5 minutes, like those couple of wides, like there were killers, like good chances. Like you wouldn't say there were 100-yard shots or bad decisions. Like Keogh, Morris, even Ger Brown, like there were good looks and wides in positions where the pressure is on, and I'm criticised like the likes of Keogh, who are brilliant on the day, but like they're the money shots, if you know what I mean. That's when they have to go over, and they just didn't. And look, just the thing for me, these periods after half time, they're costing Tipperary matches. They're absolute, like, teams can have purple patches are fine, but teams are having purple patches against Tipp that are winning matches like that. Go back to the league game against Waterford last year. We came out slow. We were savaged in Miles Park. The Munster final against Limerick, sunk after half time. All-Ireland quarter final against Waterford, 8 points to 3 in that third quarter. And then again, it's too much of a trend for it not to be something that has to be tackled going forward, because there are periods where we're going from losing positions, or from positions where you're in games ending up in losing positions, and it's creating too much work for us to claw back. And in fairness, we're clawing back these matches, but it's those periods that ended up and they're costing us games ultimately.
Yeah, Alan T says Honda Premier can't wait for Semple on Sunday now after that performance. So the first 4 points of the game went to Waterford. We know Tipperary missed 3 chances there. The first 1-4 the second half went to Waterford, which feeds into Shane's point. Now, you know, through your management experience, I'm sure that you send out a team and you're saying and they're saying, lads, look, we're setting the tone here from the start. We're not going to be the ones reacting. We're going to, get on the front foot here. But it's not quite as easy as doing that. Like, Have you ever been able to understand why a team might start slowly? Is there anything Colin Bonner can do about this?
I'm sure they have addressed it and tried to address it. Like, but it becomes it's quite difficult at times. You know what I mean? That I suppose it comes down to mindset, and it becomes down to the energy of the team. And you look at last year. Take the Limerick match last year. Take the age demographic of our team for the last couple of years. I say, right? We're shoving on a bit. Like, so, like, you go look at the against Limerick last year. To put so much energy into that 35 minutes that when you stop, right, it can be quite difficult to regain it again. And I suppose there's a couple of things you can do. You can maybe freshen it up by putting in a couple of fresh legs, or you can actually maybe crowd that middle third, get your number 11 to drop out a bit further, or get a corner forward to drop out to 11 or whatever, or play a third midfielder. But I agree with Shane. It is something that we need to address. It can become nearly a burden on teams, because you can, if you focus on it too much, then sometimes the harder you try, the worse it gets. You know what I mean? But listen, I suppose last weekend it was for me, it was as I said before, when you get your opportunity, you have to take it. Waterford are a really good side. They're going to get purple patches, but the problem we have is that we're conceding too much in their purple patches, and we're not capitalising enough on our purple patches. That's the bottom line. And I suppose last Sunday we had a lot of inexperience on the field, right? And I suppose you'd have to clap them on the back for, in particular, like, you must have, like, 50% of our backs were new. Like Craig, James, and Dylan Quirk, they're like that's a lot. And like you rolling at 6, you know, like I thought they played very well. I thought we dealt with a lot of our threats very well. James at full back had a big job. Mike Kiley, good strong player, had a really strong Fitzgibbon. I thought he defended him very well. I really like James, and there'll be a lot of question marks over James coming into the game. Let's call a spade here, right? And like, but I was very, very pleased with him. And Craig in the corner, Craig, like, held Bennett scoreless, did a really, like, these are all really good positives. Dylan Quirk, like, again, prominently a forward with his club in the county, wing back, kind of. I think that he's a guy that will, if he gets a bit more confidence, will become a more of an attacking wing back and will drive forward. So these are all positives that we need to take from it, from last weekend. And then the big thing for me, though, and I suppose Shamey being gone, I suppose it's maybe in one sense Shamey having the injury, like, and Mark Keogh is forced in at 14 now. And to me, I was delighted with him, because he never shied away. He looked for responsibility. He looked to take his man on every time. Yeah, okay, a lot of stuff didn't come off or whatever it is. He physically, he mightn't be where he's at or whatever it is. Or, do you know what I mean? But I really, like, he got his 2 goals. The first goal he got, like let's call it spade as well. Like, both goals he got actually were really hard finishes, right? The first one was by no means an easy finish, and the second one was excellent. Was like he got a goal out of nothing, really. So there's a positive. Conor Bowe, another guy, wing forward. Hopefully, there's talks that he's an injury now as well, so he could be out for a couple of weeks. Hopefully not. But like, you have to look at it. But again, I'm going to come back, and I suppose coming back to the manager side of things and what you're thinking of. I even nearly at this stage as a supporter even hate talking about the match last Sunday, because I feel we should be moved on to next Sunday and not dwell on last Sunday, and because that game is over, we need to move on as players, as management, as supporters, because I really do feel that we're going to be up against Clare. They're coming in exactly the same way we were last weekend. No pressure on them. They have a number of players back. Peter Duggan, Shane O'Donnell, all these boys back. Tony Kelly's in their team. Shanahan's flying it. This is going to be a real hard test. And like I say, we were lucky last year. Okay, we bet them what last year, 10 or 11 pints. But like, there was a questionable sin bin there after 37 minutes, and like at that stage they were 3 pints up, and at the end of that there was an 8 pint, or they were 2 pints up. At the end of that sin bin, we were 6 pints up. So like, there's nothing in this game, and as such as full credit last weekend. I thought the team was well prepared. I thought the boys put in a real good shift. I agree with Shane that we didn't capitalise. The first 3 pints, we should have nailed 2 of them. Jason's goal definitely should have been hung up. And at the end of that game, we could have a couple more scores. And to me, we should at least got a draw, if not got the victory of that game last weekend. But again, with all the new lads that are there, you'd have to be happy coming away out of Waterford. But to me, it's no good having that unless you get a result next weekend. I think next weekend will decide our championship.
Shane, last week Brian Flannery said to us when we were previewing the game that Tipperary need to find some new heroes. Now, Eoin has already alluded to it to some degree. Do you think that is the case now, that people can buy into this team a little bit more than the previous few weeks when, let's face it, there wasn't too much of a buzz surrounding the team? There was tickets being sent back, the whole lot.
Yeah, I think there was an element of people not really knowing what to expect, and like we were hearing all about these young players, but I suppose once you see them in action, and I suppose you blood them and put them out there, and you see if they're whether they're good enough. And look, I think that's the encouraging part of it. Like James Quigley, I thought he was very, very good. It was great to see him about 15 minutes in, sticking his hand up and catching the ball over the air. And look, he had his hands full with Michael Kiley, but I thought in the first half he defended him very well. He stood him up. Himself and Brian Hogan combined there to make a good block there. Look, I thought for Craig Morgan to hold Stephen Bennett scoreless from play, like, I thought that was a terrific performance. Like, and look, one of the frustrating things of Johnny Murphy, what free did he see against Craig Morgan at the very start that got Stephen Bennett up and running? I had no idea. Like, but look, I thought Craig was outstanding. Look, Dylan Quirk, I thought, was very, very good at right wing back. Just the one time he decided to make a sort of an aimless ball up the field, it actually ended up in the first Waterford goal. It was three, just sort of one-handed pulling, and look, it ended up Stephen Bennett blocked it. 3 passes later, it was in the back, and it just shows you the fine margins where if you veer away from even hitting a sort of an under pressure clearance up the field, it can come back to bite you. But he was good.
That's experience, though, Shane, isn't it?
What? Yeah, that's it. But it's veering away from the game plan, and I'd say experience. Ronan Maher did the very, very same. About 5 minutes from the end, it ended up in Shane McNulty's point where Ronan went for one of his booming clearances, and he ended up, I think, topping the ball, and it ended up in a Waterford point. But other than that, there was very, very few times that Tipperary were aimless in their use of the ball, whether it was an aimless hand pass or a long clearance. Like, I'll give them credit for that. I thought they stuck to the game plan pretty well. Go to Conor Bowe. Like, I thought he was a big loss when he went off. I thought we were tying down their wing backs particularly well. Like, so, and like, if he is missing for the weekend, he's going to be a loss. And like, I suppose looking forward, as Eoin says, what happens with the makeup of the team? Like, you would think Dan McCormick he's definitely going to come back in. Does he come back in midfield, or did you put him in at wing forward and get him to do that roving role? I actually think I would put him back in at 10 for next weekend, and I would start John McGrath and move Noel into the middle field, because I think you can. I just thought against Waterford it was hard to play the two McGraths together, but I think against Clare there's a bit more freedom to play the two of them, I think, in that central area, and still have Dan McCormick in the team. So they would be my changes with Alan Flynn dropping out. I think it's been shown, I think, in this year's league, as good a player as Alan Flynn is, he's small for intercounty now compared to a couple of years ago. And physically, I just thought he looked light compared to some of the Waterford players out there. And it's nothing against his hurling ability. I just think his lack of size, particularly in the middle of the field, is counting against him at the moment. I don't know whether you agree with that or not.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's maybe where sometimes you're maybe more suited to a wing, because you can always have an out on that side if you don't want to go through two bodies.
Is he enough to pick up Tony Kelly?
Could well be, yeah.
I'd imagine it'll be Cathal Barrett, though, even if that pulls Cathal Barrett out of the full back line, just because he's probably done it before. He's got the aggression levels. He has as much speed as any Tipp player. If you were planning it out now, Eoin, what way would you go with that?
Well, first of all, you have to remember Tony Kelly wherever he goes. And I suppose I was thinking with this last night. I was saying, do you know what? Probably Barry Heffernan I go with, because the one thing with Barry's playing the full back line, half back line, obviously middle of the field, and Tony Kelly is the type of player that if he's not getting ball, he's going to go look for ball, right? And he's going to move himself around the place. And if Tony Kelly goes back to field, the middle of the field, then Barry becomes a scoring threat for us. So I think he's the ideal man for him, and he has the pace, he has the height, he has the experience now, and he has he's an athlete to stay with him. Like, so that to me, that's the first thing we have to get right, is who's picking up Tony Kelly. Simple as that. I think if we stop him, we go a long way to stopping Clare. But I would agree with you with Dan McCormack. Dan McCormack has to start. I think Alan had an off day. He's still going to be a huge part of the panel for the rest of the year. He'll be in and out, whatever it is, but it just wasn't his day of the day. That's fine. We move on, and he'll do a job for us, either coming on the next day again. We'll need him, you know. John McGrath, again, listen, obviously he's not sparkling in training. That's why he's not playing, because we all know he's the best club player in Tipperary for the last couple of years. He's obviously, like, we're not in Thurles every night looking at him, so it's obviously that he's not performing well or whatever it is. And but all accounts, Bonner was performing well, and like again, I wouldn't discount Bonner either, because like people are very quick to say, Bonner's finished. Like, he'll still have a huge job for us to do. I would say, yeah, come on, maybe 15-20 minutes max. I think the pace of the game the other day was just above him, I think, but still, I think he's under his belt now, that I would still use him again next weekend and try and get, and listen, whatever it takes, all we need to do next weekend is get a result. How we do it, I don't care. It doesn't have to be impressive, it doesn't have to be fancy, it doesn't have to be, it's a 1-point win, get us over the line and get the train moving, because this is a team that needs confidence. There's loads of hurlers there, and like, we have a nice little blend of experience there now, like with the likes of Ronan, the likes of Dan McCormack, the likes of Noel. Again, Noel, I think Noel is a 30-minute man, and lift him. The other day, I wouldn't have put him in full forward. I would have taken him off. I brought Jason out, because I think Noel was just gassed at that stage. I think he had his job done. He was outstanding in the game, and I just think we need to be clever here. Like, even when he's playing well, I think we need fresh legs, and that's when you're talking about the dip, and when teams come at proper patches. He's just not able to cover the ground. He's not able to, like, he'll give you that 35 minutes. He's a very balanced player. There's no better balanced player in the game than Noel. But to make them calls of when to lift them, you know, and not to wait till things are gone bad. Lift them when things are going well, and put in the fresh legs and trust the lads on the bench, you know. But yeah, listen, Alan would have to drop out for me. We'll have to see what the story with Conor Bowe. If he's injured, obviously, then to me, I'd be bringing out Jason and putting John McGrath inside. I'd actually love to see a 2 inside of Jake, and I said this to you back a while ago in the last podcast about playing 2 inside with Mark Keogh and Jake, and I played John McGrath on the edge of the D, right, and give John McGrath a free roll across the half, their half back line, right, and have him as a point that if our half back line midfielder winning ball, he's coming short looking for it, and because you don't want him, he's not a type, like, he's not a speed merchant, but he's an opportunist, and he'll read the game, and he'll read the breaks, and he'll put himself in positions to receive ball, and I'd love to see that, and I'd actually go with Jason and leave Noel at 11 for the first half, and then it's easy moving around then if Bo is injured, you know.
A final word then on the Waterford game before we talk a bit more about Clare and the referee. I mean, obviously Tommy Dunn got very frustrated and got a red card at half time. But if you look at the overall course of the game, a few minutes later, Waterford get a couple of goals, and you could say that there was a throw ball from Patrick Hearn for one. You could say there was maybe steps or charging from Michael Kiley for the other one. In the first half, Michael Kiley potentially could have been sent off for a loose hurley. I don't think he was out to do him, but you know, he connected with Seamus Kennedy's head. Blood was spilled. I don't see how that's not really a red. Cathal Barrett had his helmet pulled off by Deise Hutchinson. Now, we don't know what happened before that, but there's photographs that clearly show it. Noel McGrath got a yellow card for I don't know what. I saw the replay and I still couldn't understand it. Eoin, can you understand Tommy Dunn's frustration?
I can 100%. Myself and Johnny Murphy have a past as well, so he's definitely not a friend of mine. But I find him. I've come across a lot of referees, and I've a lot of referee friends even. But like as such, I just can't understand him. I just think the one thing about a referee is this: a good referee to me is a referee that you don't know is there, right? And it's not by like Johnny Murphy. Every game he referees, he is the centre focus, which you don't want as a referee. You go back to the Lockmore match and Ballygunner, right? Like that was ludicrous. Like you go back to more, you could give loads of examples like of Johnny Murphy and like he's whistle happy. He's constantly trying to make himself centre attention. Like the Tommy Dunn incident, there was no word between Tommy Dunn and Johnny Murphy in that first half the other day.
No, I think it was Tommy and Paul Dwyer. I think Paul.
Yeah, it was.
I know. I was right behind Tommy. We were sitting, and particularly the incident where Alan Flynn was pinged for overcarrying, and it was clear as day for us in the stand that Alan Flynn was having his shoulder held and he was being fouled. And look, I know that the linesman has no power. The linesman can't call that, but I suppose I know Tommy. Paul did snipe back at him, and maybe Tommy was over aggressive, but like things like that. I'd love to see. I know people are saying there should be second referees. I think linesmen should be. The two linesmen are inter-county referees. Paul Dwyer, a lot like rugby, should be able to say, wire in and say, Johnny, okay, Alan Flynn overcarried, but the reason he overcarried is because he was being fouled, and that a lot like rugby, the referee can reverse his decision and give a free out for Tipperary. I'd love to see things like that happen, because I know people say, why are you copying rugby? But that's not to say you can't improve from other sports. And I think within 2 or 3 years, an incident like Michael Kiley's pull and Seamus Kennedy will be an automatic red card, whether it was an intent or not. I think anything around the head now is a no-no, whether you mean it or not. And you see a lot in rugby where there's a lot of red cards now for head injuries, and a lot of them are accidental. There's no intent behind it, but intent has gone out of it. It's player safety. You can't tell me that's not a...
The hand passing is next to impossible to referee unless you're on top of it. Like again, you need an umpire's help there, right? Or linesman's help there. There's no, they're all mic'd up. I don't know why we're micing up umpires and linesmen when we don't use them more. Like, what's the point in having them mic'd up? But if it's only for a blatant incident, like at the end of the day, he could be in his ear and say, Johnny, foul Alan Flynn, or late pull, whatever it is. And ref can still make his own mind. He can stick with his own decision. He doesn't have to. He can listen to the advice, but he can still call it, and it doesn't have to be a big long debate. But I would agree with you. But I just listen. Generally, referees were like, and again, let's go to the referee below in Wexford and Galway, like 11 seconds, and versus 17 for Lee Chins, and it was no bother. Like, it's the inconsistencies is the biggest problem that lads have. But again, I suppose it's a thankless job. But I feel with Johnny Murphy, he's constantly in the talking point after a lot of his games, and to me, that's a very bad sign of referee. You go back to all the good, like look at Fergal, like you never, like, he's talking to players, he's going around, he's letting us know what's going on, but he's never the focal point. He's never in really the focal point of games. So from our point of view, I would 100% agree with you. The Seamus Kennedy incident, questionable. The Barrett incident, I'd say now, I wouldn't be highlighting that one because I said there was lots going on before that.
But just saying, like you're staying on like the referee and sorry, Shane. I said it at the time. I remember marking in the stand straight away. Like, you know the way you'd say, if you're on a sideline in a match, you say throw straight away, and I said throw straight away, like, as before Michael Kiley even stuck it in the net, like, so. And I'd say a lot of people in the stands were just very same. Yeah.
But you know what? The fact that Tipperary didn't collapse. I mean, last year in the Munster final, it wasn't until a few of the young lads came on off the bench, and then Tipperary steadied the ship a little bit against Limerick when the game was obviously gone. But this time, the team didn't fully collapse. The team held it together, steadied down. Waterford had a few wides, like, we'd all accept that. But at least Tipperary pulled themselves back into the game. Fine, we don't have the depth there at the moment to bring on an Austin Gleeson or a Jamie Barron. Seamus Callan's obviously injured. Bubbles is injured. No Niall O'Mara. Brian O'Mara's away. Kieran Connolly's away. And so on and so forth. But Shane, that's got to be very encouraging going into this Clare game.
Oh, look, it does. Look, I think we all felt when Deise Hutchinson scored the goal to go 5 points up. He's like, Jesus, this could get out of hand here pretty quickly. Like, and in fairness to them, they fought back brilliantly, just dead chipping away, got the goal. Jake Morris very unlucky not to get one himself. I thought that was a brilliant save from Sean O'Brien. Like, Jake and everything low around the feet. You think that the most vulnerable area is your feet, and like, I think Sean O'Brien is making saves, and like, I know what you say Jason Ford should have got the first one. Like, I think Jason did everything right. You go low, and like, I don't know what more Jason could have done. Actually, he was like, you're told to go low in that situation. He did. Maybe he should have gone the other side, but I give him. I don't know if he was going to be right on the keeper, like, so maybe he could have.
My point in that, Shane, is listen, when you're in that position, 1-on-1 with a keeper, there's no,
Yeah.
you have to hang it up.
Oh, yeah,
You just
yeah.
have to hang it up. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? They're like, I keep saying, like, against the underdogs, like, there's the hard look story. There's no,
Yeah.
like, he's an experienced player. Come here. I'm not having to go at Jason Ford.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's uncharacteristic.
Oh, look,
And
he'll be his
in that position, you know.
He'll be the first person to be hard on Jason for missing will be Jason himself. Like he'll hold himself to higher standards, like, and he'll know himself. Look, in fairness, even going back to last year when Tipp hit these 3/4 slumps, like they're always fighting back. There's character in this team. There's no doubt about it. It's just in the big moments, like are we doing the right things? Are we maybe faking an injury when at the start of the second half when the wave has come and things like that. And even going back to the Michael Kiney incident, and I bring it back to Aaron Gillan last year in the Munster final. Why aren't we making enough of these? Why aren't we getting tick with maybe Michael Kiley and say, okay, maybe drawing the referees, maybe forcing the referee to think? I still think if we made enough of that incident with Aaron Gillan last year, Paul O'Dwyer would have sent him off. I just think we're not being streetwise enough to maybe force the referee to make a decision, or maybe make it look worse than it actually is. Like, and just little streetwise moments like that. Like, I just love to see us get a small bit more gamesmanship. And like,
well, it's like Nicky Quaid and his contact lens. Every time Limerick can see 2 points in a row, his contact lens for some reason seems to be at him own.
Yeah, but
and like, even if you go back last year, I go back to that incident with Gillan and Barrett, like we should have, that particular point in that game, Limerick were on top, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So that was a perfect opportunity for bodies to come in around Gillan, pushing and shoving and argy-bargy and stop the game.
Yeah.
Create a bit of a rumpus, like I'm saying to you, like, and really
don't do something to get yourself sent off with enough to stall the game.
100%, and just stem the flow and bring them in and take their more so ruin their pattern than upsetting yours. So they're all coming in, their forwards now are coming in and focusing on getting a dig at Brendan Maher, or getting a dig at Carl Barr, or getting a dig at someone else, and next thing, so their mind is taken off it. So I get your point in that 100%. And even the other day on that incident with Seamus, you're right, but our backs didn't make enough fuss, or didn't have a go at him, or and create that. And as I said, you have to take every little that there are little things that I suppose this year we can say it's experience, but I suppose last year with Gillan, and that the nearest man to him was Brendan Maher. That you'd expect Brendan was going to, do you know what I mean? We'd be smart enough to do that. But listen, as I say, that's something that can be spoken about in the group and worked on, you know.
Yeah, but I might just say, maybe go back to refereeing and look towards next weekend. What are the GA doing appointing James Owens to this match after last year? Seriously, I'm terrified that he's going to overcompensate, and that Tipperary will be the ones in the fight. And like I know Clare people are worried about it because of last year. Like, I'm more worried that he's like James Owens, when he must have got the email to say he's down to. He must think, what are the referees committee doing to me? Like, why would you put him in charge of the match? I'm not saying he can't do Tipp Clare matches in the future, but the very next game between Tipp and Clare, why is he getting this game? I do not understand.
Yeah,
and I've no problem with him, but it's just the timing of the appointment. He will unless there's a decisive winner next weekend. James Owens is going to get blamed by either losing teams this weekend. There's absolutely no doubt about it in my mind.
I watched the incident again this morning, and my God, it was some mad call. Like if you're a Clare supporter, you'd be scratching your head going, why? How in the name of God? Like, it was 37 minutes gone out the sideline practically. And, like, there were 2 points up and penalty. It was like madness. 2-12 to 113 at the time. Next thing, 10 minutes later, it's 3-17 to 2-14. Like, game over.
Game over.
You know? So, like, it was absolutely, and like, Clare were full value last year, and you know, I tell you, it's but you're right, James Owen. I'd say it was definitely scratching his going. Oh no, why me?
Give me any other game in the first couple of rounds, but not this one.
Well, just to go through some of the recent results between Tipp and Clare. Clare beat Tipperary, as we remember, back in 2018, the last game at the round robin. That was the day that late goal from, I think it was Podge Collins that day. Jake Morris had hit the post a little while before that. Tipperary obviously won that game that we're talking about last year. Tipperary won handy enough now in 2019, the last year of an All-Ireland success, 321-17. And just to talk a bit more about Clare, I might just bring up a potential 15 onto the screen. The likes of Aaron Shanahan and so on may start there. But, just to go from the back line, Eibhear Culligan, Rory Hayes, Conor Cleary, Paul Flanagan, that's been a pretty good full back line and definitely kept Tipperary out for a lot of last year's game. Jack Brown, John Conlon, Diarmuid Ryan is a potential wing back.
Don't think Diarmuid Ryan is going to be fit to play in this one, I think.
Okay, maybe he's out. David Reedy is out of contention. He's one of the injuries that won't be back in time. Aidan McInerney apparently won't be back either. So some of the forward threats, you could put Aaron Shanahan in here, but obviously Tony Kelly will be somewhere. He'll obviously roam away as he does. Shane O'Donnell, who's apparently bulked up a nice bit this year. We haven't really seen him play though. Shane Meehan's looked very good at the 20s. You could have Peter Duggan, Davy Fitz, Cathal Malone should certainly be starting, assuming he's fit. Where would the big threats be there for you, Eoin?
Yeah, I'd say looking at the backline anyway. So looking at the backline, okay, well, their threats obviously be Shane O'Donnell, Tony Kelly, Shanahan. They're obviously their threats, right? Like Peter Duggan, we haven't seen much of Peter Duggan. He's out of the game for 2 years. Super player, but I don't know, is he up to the pace? We'll see. I would be looking at bringing Rory Hayes out of that square, out of that full backline, and I'd be isolating Conor Cleary and Paul Flanagan, and I'd be putting Jake Morris and Mark Eoin on them, and I'd be hitting the ball into spaces all day and running them ragged. I think we can really get at Flanagan and really get at Conor Cleary. Jack Brown is again another guy. I had him beside you well. Tough cookie, but he can be got at. He's probably the weakest that half back. And I'd say Fitzgerald will probably be wing back. I'd say attacking that. I'd say he could probably be in the half back, who's a good player. Middle of the I don't know if it's going to be McInerney and Shane Gold and whoever it is in the middle of the field. The forward line will take watching. As I said to you before, we have to remember Tony Kelly. We have to get it right. Let it be Carl Barrett. Let it be Heffernan. Let it be Alan Flynn. Someone like that has to be, and it has to be someone that's comfortable playing the full back line, half back line, midfield that can follow him. And to me, I'd be putting Heffernan on him and just sticking with him. Shane O'Donnell again had a very bad concussion last year. He's back. He had a recurrence of it a few weeks later. He hasn't a lot of game time played. He's a really good player. But I actually think James Quigley is a type of player that James Quigley would like to mark. Do you know what I mean? He's not a big massive man in the air. Whereas I think like Peter Duggan could give James lots of bother, you know. But yeah, listen, the one thing about Lohan is this: Lohan will have him fired up. They'll be all guns blazing. They like Turles. They do have the likes of Mark Rogers, who I think will start as well. So like Rogers, Tony Kelly, and Shanahan. Shanahan is actually a guy now that would bother. He bother any fullback. He's a really good pawn him in the air and quickly. So like we just need to be really simple at the back. Get the ball to ground. They cannot get the ball in their hand. If they get their ball in their hand, they'll do damage. If we can get the ball to ground and crowd that back line, and if we can go fairly direct into our inside forward line can do damage in our inside back line, big time.
Yeah, that's just a probable 15 or potential 15, yeah. Shane. It's been a long time since we've seen Clare play, so you can take some of that with a pinch of salt. But what would you be most worried about, I suppose, beyond Tony Kelly, because that's probably a bit too obvious?
Yeah, it's I suppose it's like I don't think there's an awful lot. There's enough respect for Clare in Tipperary, and that's my worry. I'm a huge fan of Brian Lohan as a manager. Like, he is teak tough. There's no bullshit with him. He will have these guys motoring. And look, Clare, as Eoin said earlier on, like Clare, we were priming for 6 weeks for Waterford. We have only 1 week to turn it around, but Clare have been priming for us for 6 weeks. So, but I was just looking at the small sample size from the round robin. Clare have a bit to do because the team that has had the bye in the first round hasn't won in round two. So you think match practice should stand to Tipp. Clare will probably come a little bit cold. So, but on the flip side, the team that has lost in round one has ended up winning the following weekend. So you think that sort of thing should suit Tipp, like the match practice should stand to Tipp in terms of that. But then I think there's been 6 away wins in the Munster Championship in the round robin, and Clare of 2 of them. And like as Eoin said, like they're going to relish coming to Turles. This is Tipperary are the one county that have effectively no home advantage in the round robin because everybody is so familiar with Turles. They love coming here, and Clare are going to bring a big crowd. I think from all accounts, Tipp are going to have a big crowd. There's a lot of families and stuff coming to the game that maybe sat out the game last weekend. So there's an awful lot of threats there. look, it's like Tony Kelly is the key. Look, Tony Kelly's going to score a certain amount. It's about minimising his influence on the game. And I thought we did that last year in the Gaelic rounds. Like, he did get a cracking goal, but overall he was affecting the game wasn't as much as I'd say Clare would have hoped on the day. They did play him, if I can correct me wrong, last year. They did play him for a lot of the game inside, didn't they? With Barrett on him. So it'd be interesting to see whether they bring him out or will they go with that again. I think
I prefer to see him in there, actually, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think he does way more damage floating than he does actually in a 14 position.
Yeah. Because I think Quigley would probably go on O'Donnell. I think Meehan and Morgan looks nailed on because same age profile. Morgan sort of relishes those sort of Brian Turnbull opposite forward. Like, he relishes those matchups. Like Clare's Phil Cassidy, Jay McInerney, Cathal Malone has been a big player for them the last few years. Hasn't had a good league this year. It'd be interesting to see if he comes back to form. We'd like to negate him. I think a lot of it will be focusing on how, like, I think that Clare defence can be got at. Like, a lot like John Conlon's probably going to sit at 6, so either John or Noel McGrath, I think, is the perfect person to put in on him that'll drift left and right. And like as Eoin says about Keogh and Brislane inside, I just thought we missed a trick last weekend. A couple of times when Mark Keogh got the ball, there was nobody coming off the shoulder at pace to take it off him. Like, if you were seeing a ball going into Keogh or Morris, and if you were Michael Breen, or particularly Michael Breen, and you should be gone, anticipating that, okay, one of those boys is going to get the ball, I'm coming off the shoulder to take it off him. And even if Jar Brown starts, that he does the same, that 10 times the ball might go in, but the pass might be only the one time you're coming off the shoulder that the chance opens up and you stick it in the back. And I just think, as much as Keogh and Morris can create their own goal scoring chances, they can create for others too. If the likes of Breen or somebody's coming off the shoulder, even a John McGrath, if he does start to take that gamble and say, these boys are going to win the ball and I'm going to be in position to take the ball off them.
Oh, this is a pressure game, because Tipperary, realistically, judging on how things have gone the last few weeks, Limerick are going to be massive favourites against Tipperary. I'd say most people would accept that. So in a way, if Tipperary are going to come out of Munster or get to a Munster final, Tipperary will need to beat Cork later down the road. I think at the moment on our trajectory, we might have to accept that Limerick are possibly going to win that game. So Tipperary need to win this game against Clare. But the other side of it is 14 of the 20 players used last week played in an All-Ireland final win in 2019, just 2.5-3 years ago. So there's huge, and 10 of those were starters. So there's huge experience, but huge pressure on this game.
Yeah, this is the thing, and I suppose the one from looking at it from a player's point of view, right? When you it's the format is obviously very like the club format for the last few years, and like I go back 2 years ago, we played Brislane. We were all focused on Brislane. We were focused on Brislane in the first round, right? And it's all Brislane leading into it, and we ended up drawing them. Then 6 days, you had 5 days to say to get ready for your next match, or 6 days ready for your next match against Upperchurch, and to shift focus from one team to the other, that you're constantly, and like it's very similar. Like Waterford, everybody's tipping them league champions. It's very easy to get up from. Everybody's writing you off. And I'm just saying, the younger players, the debutants, the James Quigleys, the Craig Morgan, the Dylan Quirk, Conor Bowe, Mark Keogh, even, like these lads now will still, because they're still inexperienced. Like that was the biggest game in their career last Sunday. So they're coming down off that, everybody telling them how well they went and how well they performed. Now they have to switch focus very quickly to next Sunday, right? That's the tricky part for the player. So because subconsciously your mind is, look, still going back to last Sunday, but you're being forced yourself to think about next Sunday. So that's the tricky part, and that's where the management and all this week is like, listen, like training wise, it's rest recovery really, but it's meant getting yourself focused, and that's where I think is a big Tip team is to get her into it, because down and like it's a big challenge, and like as I said, I think this is the deciding match for our championship this year, because listen, you all know what Limerick are like, and so like it's a big game.
Like it's the same. I'm sure Clare are the same. I think Clare realised the next 7 days they've Tipp and Cork and Thurles. They'll fancy their chances. 2 wins out of that, they're probably qualified before they even get to Limerick and Waterford as well. So I do think it's massive this weekend for both counties. Like you say, if Tipp win, you can go to Limerick, have a free swing. With the Cork match still to come as the key one, and I'm not convinced that maybe Limerick won't taper things down a small bit. Limerick had to be ready for last Sunday and Waterford this weekend, but you can't be at the same level on the 17th of April as you will be on the 17th of July for the All Ireland. I think for a Limerick to win an All Ireland, they're going to have to taper things down and rise them again. So an opening might happen for Tipp maybe on the 8th of May, where maybe Limerick mightn't be at their sharpest because they'll be, I think, a lot like what Tipperary did in 2019. Tipp hit the ground running, but they hit a bit of a trough around Limerick and Laois, and then they picked it back up again. So that's what I think. I think there might be a chance. There's an opening against Limerick, but I do think if Tipp don't beat Clare at the weekend, if it's the loss, like one win against Cork won't be enough, and Clare have the head-to-head with us too. If we end up in,
would you be surprised if Waterford? Would you be surprised if Waterford beat Limerick weekend?
Yeah, very surprised actually. Haven't watched back the games. Just how dominant Limerick are on the puckouts. Sure, like anyone who's watches any bit of hurling knows that the puckouts and the ruck balls are a huge part of it. But Waterford, when they went for long puckouts against Tipperary, they won 1 of 8 in the first half. And when they went short, so often the full back line pucked the ball straight out to where Tipperary could win it. If Limerick do that against Waterford, I see Limerick winning, but in such a way that in the last 5 minutes, it's not up for debate. What way do you see that going on?
I just think it's total role reversing again. Both games, I think the Tipp match and Clare match. I think the Limerick match and Waterford match, very hard to call. I think that Waterford now are gone from being like every time bomb to kind of gone in underdogs now against Limerick. Expectations is a bit lower. Austin Gleeson's come back into the team. Jerry Barron's come back into the team. To me, if I was Liam Cahill, I'd be absolutely delighted with last Sunday because we won the game unconvincingly. We're like to keep the Waterford public at bay is what he needs to keep down there, not the players. And I think they're coming to Limerick again, totally under the radar. It wouldn't surprise me at all if Waterford win that game next weekend. And would it be a disaster for Limerick? I think if Waterford win next weekend, it'll be Limerick win Ireland. I think that's, to me, I don't think Waterford need to win this. I think if they perform, I think if you poke the bear this weekend, the time for Waterford to beat Limerick is they're going to meet one. They're going to beat them in the Munster final or an All Ireland semi-final or an All Ireland. That's the time to beat him. I think okay, they'll be going to win. But I think if Cal gets a performance and there's signs that they've closed the gap from the last 2 years, I think he'd take that. But I do think Limerick will go for the kill this weekend. I think there'll be a lot like Kilkenny in their prime. Limerick will think we've got to put they're our chief threat to 3 in a row. It's time to get inside their heads a small bit. And if they go and win by 6, 7, or 8 points, that bit of doubt is still there. I think I do think from Waterford point of view, a narrow loss and a good performance is actually the best outcome for this weekend. Possibly, yeah. For them, yes. But as I said, I wouldn't surprise me if Limerick win. And remember this now, Seamus Flanagan's come back into that team. Will Dunn was very little training done. Keane Lynch had very little match game time last 3 weeks. Kyle Hayes had very dead leg. He was out for 2 or 3 weeks as well. So that's what he was up in the forward line. Like Mike Casey, don't underestimate as well. He is a serious shove on to that back line. That Limerick team, if keep injury free and get Flanagan back, will actually be a stronger team than last year, in my opinion. If they keep progressing, but it wouldn't surprise me if Waterford overturn them in Limerick, and it wouldn't be the worst thing for Limerick in the long term.
Do you see, Shane, Waterford trying anything different? So they haven't gotten a huge amount out of Jamie Barron the past few years when they've played against Limerick. Limerick tend to dominate those middle areas. When they put him into the full forward line last year, and he started out his career in the forward line, Waterford, would you try something like mixing it up by saying, well, you know what, we'll play him in there from the start, maybe put Aussie midfield, but maybe you need him in the half-forward line for puckouts. But I just mean mix something up and see if you can get something out of Jamie Barron on the inside line.
I wouldn't do it this weekend. because I think there's a fair chance they're going to meet down the line again, and that's the time maybe it holds something like that back. Like I'm not convinced Jamie Byrne's going to start either, because like he that was only his first 35 minutes in the whole year. Like it's hard to expect him to go 70 minutes at the week, and maybe you start him and bring him off after. Oh geez, I don't know.
Remember, he came out of nowhere and started against Waterford.
Yeah,
was man of the match with 4 points, and on he went.
Yeah, maybe so, but like Waterford were actually a bit fortunate last weekend that the circumstances allowed that they had Barron and Gleeson on the bench. Ordinarily, picking your best 15, they would start, and you're and no disrespect to Cormac Daly and Neil Montgomery, they will not give you. They'll give you something off the bench, but not the same impact. Like, and I'd say I don't think even Liam Cahill could have anticipated the impact he got off Daly Barron and Gleeson as he did, in terms of both had scored within 3 minutes of coming on, like, and Gleeson getting the type of score he did from the side, like Joe Canning in 2017, like one of those that just lifts the crowd. Like you can't buy a subs the manner of subs like that. So I don't think so. I think Daly. I don't think Cormac Daly will start. I wouldn't, besides if Early comes in. I think he will go as strong as he possibly can this weekend. I don't think we'll see anything different. I think he'll allow Austin to float. I don't think we'll see anything particularly in terms of Jamie Byrne playing him anywhere different.
I think the biggest problem for Limerick is going to be next weekend is that, and we haven't even mentioned it, that how bad Cork were. Like, Cork were absolutely scandalous last weekend, and like they learned nothing from Nationals of Ireland. They were actually worse, and they didn't, like, they say the first sign of his insanity is that you keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. Like, they're doing the same thing, the same puck outs. Like, even I was looking at Liam Sheedy the other night, talking about the puck outs and the press and the puck outs and that. Like, the Cork forwards racing in to close down one defender, two, 3 forwards, thinking of the right thing, rather than just pressing your own man and like giving Limerick the outball all day long. It was so easy for Limerick last Sunday, and I just think that Waterford would be a different prospect altogether, and that, like, Limerick are after having a very poor league. Like, there's probably still cracks there, and I think Graham Mulcahy is not the player he was. I think he's finished. Like, they're kind of, do you know what I mean? And like, listen, we're not going to pick a whole lot of holes now in Limerick here, but Tom Morrissey not sparking the way he was sparking, like, and Graham Mulcahy, and they don't have the bench they had. Like, Peter Casey's a huge loss from this Conspiracy Wade, right, on that. But if Waterford have the capability to overturn Limerick next weekend, especially, I think that Limerick had no game last weekend. I just think Cork were absolutely terrible, and to me, from a Tipp point of view, we have to target Limerick or Clare, and we have to target Cork. There's 2 games. That's our path through to the next step of the championship.
Like, aren't Cork so blessed that their bye weekend is this weekend? Because they would be cannon fodder, I think, for anybody if they were playing this weekend. Like, the thing that gets me, and like, Cork have this style of hurling, but the thing that always comes in my head is that they're terrified of confrontation. They're creating this style of hurling where they don't want to be tackled by anyone. It's get the ball and have it gone. I can't understand how Dermot O'Sullivan is part of this. The toughest, one of the manliest, and I can't. Cork accept manliness as a part of hurling. They're not good. They'll win a few matches, but they won't win the big ones.
I don't know. I tell you now, it's for a county that has so much promise underage for the last 10 years, success-wise and all the rest, and competing in Munster finals and finals and all the rest. I don't know. It's the type player that maybe they're picking, or there doesn't seem to be any, as you say, physicality at all. They don't want physicality. They're trying to play through the lines, trying to play around players. They're avoiding contact at all costs. Like, and like, it's just the way the modern game has gone. You have to be physically strong enough to break challenges, and if you go short against Limerick, their forwards are more physical than their backs. That's just the way it is. Kyle Hayes, Hegarty, Tom Morrissey, sure, they're stronger than Dermot Burns, Declan Hannon, and Barry Nash. Like, do you know what I mean? So you're not going to blow past them. Like, they relish this, and you see Will O'Donoghue, the very first 5 minutes to play, they got a turnover in the middle of the field. He jumped up 6 foot in the air and celebrated like it was he'd have to get in a top corner goal. Like, do you know, to win the game. It was this is what they pride themselves on. Like, 75 tackles in a game. 75 to 8 tackles a game. That's their target. The forwards are targeting 45 tackles a game. Do you know what I mean? So, like, that's what they want. It's not even about scores. Do you know what I mean? If they're hitting their numbers, they're happy, and they have their own individual targets of what they have to hit. And if they're hitting them, I'm playing well. Do you know what I mean? So, listen, but in saying all that, they are the benchmark. I actually love watching Limerick play. I think they can go short, they can go long, and all the rest. But from a Tipperary point of view, we have to, like, there's no point giving out about them. We have to, and like people say, oh, they're fouling and they're on the edge.
No.
I don't buy into that crap. Like, at the end of the day, they're physical, they're in your face, they're hounding you down, they're turning you over, they're horrible to play against, but they're exceptional players. They're big men, they're physical, they're smart, like they're aggressive, and they're very direct. And as I say, we need, as from a Tipperary point of view, we need to start getting up to that level. And we have the hurlers. We have, like, I like Dylan Quirk back at wing back. I like Barry Heffron in the middle of the field driving forward. Them type players. I'd like to see Paddy Cadell come into the setup. That type of kind of football background that could give and go and really attack. What you were talking about, Shane, there, like when the ball goes into our inside line, we're very slow to support. Like, and that's what I'm talking about. Maybe a John McGrath or someone lively that can really get up. Like, the problem with Noel at 11 is Noel will track back, but he just doesn't have the legs to get up. Like, he can't do both. And so we do need a little plan there, that we have two good guys inside that can win ball, or even have Jake Morris on the edge of the D coming in, winning the ball. Do you know what I mean? So we need to think outside the box a little bit more. And like, we have good players, and like that Tipp team, we can be in the shake-up here. Like, do you know what I mean? But just, as I said to you a few weeks back, we need to come with our style and our players and forget about the past and go with the future. Do you know?
I don't think you could set the scene much better than that.
Yeah, gee, I suppose, look, I think a decent home support this weekend will get us over the line. I do think there'll be a big crowd there, because as I say, a lot of Tipp fans held back last weekend, and I said there's a little bit of momentum off the performance. I do agree with Eoin. Sometimes maybe they clap in the back after last weekend for some players. Maybe they'll be a small bit soft. That's my worry, that maybe the edge we had last weekend won't be there again. I think that'd be the important thing for Colin Bonner and the selectors, just to keep that edge up towards the weekend. Find something in the Clare game or the Clare jersey just to get the engines going again, and maybe even something like 2018 where they stole the game from under us in Thurles and knocked us out of the champ. Just a small bit. You can be sure Clare will be bringing last year up to get themselves going.
Absolutely. A comment in from Alan T. Cork fancy Tipp to beat them in the last game, but we still have progression to play for. Clare game is the big one. Season decider, as already mentioned. I think that's it for the hurling this week. Eoin, brilliant to have you on the show, and we'll hopefully be chatting to you again soon.
Thanks, lads. Talk soon.
Cheers, Eoin.
So just a final point, I suppose, then before we finish up. It's been great chatting about all the hurling. There's also an under 20 game on this weekend that's worth talking about. A minor game for the Tipp minor footballers out against Waterford on Thursday.
Yeah, they had a great win last Thursday against Limerick with 7 points. Like, so we were looking for a bit of positivity at underage level, and we got it. An excellent performance. I didn't get to see any of the game, but by all accounts, they were fully worthy of their way. We're getting stronger as the match went on. So, like Clare, Waterford got a bit of a clipping last weekend from Clare, so you'd fancy a Tipp, even though it's away from home. If they go down there to Leamy Bryan or do about their business, they should win it and get 1 foot into that Phase 1 final, and probably against Clare again. So look, it's and sure, look, we're building towards a big weekend. God, it'd be great to get a win, because like, if Tipp don't win on Sunday, like it's going to be a long end to the campaign, isn't it?
A couple of depressing episodes of Tippcast to come, if that's the case. Okay, well look, Shane, it's been brilliant to be chatting again this week. Obviously, Eoin Brislane before him as well. Don't forget to pick up a copy of the Nina Guardian, and we'll chat to you all again soon. Thanks, Shane.
Talk to you later.